you so much. Hi everyone. 5 years ago, I was also sitting in an auditorium just like you all, in an engineering college down south in Kerala. And I had typical options in front of me at that point in time. I'm sure most of you are also thinking about your future. And I thought, oh, I should do an MBA because that's what everyone was telling me at that point in time. So I wrote the entrance examinations, cracked a few. Masters was another option. And also was looking at so many companies coming into the campus, probably I should go and find a job with one of them, right? While all these options were there and I was weighing these one by one, I was also struck with a deep sense of guilt. The guilt really because there I was, just a few steps away from being a fully qualified mechanical engineer from a fairly reputed college in the country. And yet, I knew head or tail of the 52 engineering papers that I had written all through the 4 years, right? I had toiled, I had flunked a few, I had in fact topped a few as well. And I had my ups and downs through the 4 years, but at the end of the day, if someone asked me to look at a car, and I was a mechanical engineer by the way, so if someone asked me to look at a car and asked me to identify the parts of it, I would fail really miserably, right? And I still remember going on the highway one day and with my friends in the car broke down, very simple thing. And immediate reaction, we were a bunch of mechanical engineers, remember that, was let's call the nearest automobile repair shop. We didn't even bother to check what was happening in the car, what was happening or what was going wrong. And that deeply unsettled me, right? The fact that I'm about to pursue a career, probably for a lifetime, in something I had no clue about. And more importantly, something that I couldn't really do justice to. And while I was sort of seeking answers, and I'm sure most of you are seeking answers at this point in time to what do I really do, I came across a brilliant opportunity, Teach for India. It was a 2-year fellowship where I was going to be a full-time teacher, probably a primary school teacher in a municipal school, in a low-income school, in a low-income community in one of the metro cities. And at that point in time, it seemed like sort of the perfect tailor-made opportunity for me. And there are a couple of reasons why I believe so. One is the fact that it kind of posed the right kind of challenge, kind of made me feel like primary school teachers though I can become, right? That's how I felt at that point in time. And the second thing was, I really had an opportunity to settle scores. Scores with the society that had pushed me to do engineering and finish those 4 years. I could really undo all of that and make these children follow their heart. And so I packed my bags, I defied the laws of the society, I crossed the path with my parents, and I took a flight to come to Pune, this beautiful city. And I was assigned grade 2, and I wasn't really prepared for grade 2 to be very honest. They were really, really tiny children, and you can see them here, much tinier than I expected them to be. But I was, really pumped up, super excited about this prospect of spending 2 years as a primary school teacher because that seemed like a fashionable thing at that point in time, something I had not imagined myself to be ever, right? So I still remember the very first day I walked into my school. And that's something I'll never forget. I walk into the school fully pumped up and excited about the day ahead. I walk into the classroom and I see a bunch of children crawled all over the floor. There were no benches, clearly. There were no desks. There was no electricity. There was no fan. So basically, there was no electricity or no fan. And you can see how the walls of the classroom were, right? That was the condition of the school. But then I looked at them and I saw anxious faces, curious faces, wondering who's this person who's here, someone new. So I began talking, and of course, Sudeep and Rupesh back there were never bothered anyway for the 2 years. But the rest of them at least were paying rapt attention to me. So I went about my business, I started talking, and I talked for probably bare 2 to 3 minutes, before which sort of commotion began, right? Swati there started turning towards the camera and everyone started gossiping about their fabulous summer vacation, what they did in their villages, not to me, but to each other, while I was still taking that so-called class. And at that point in time, I realized that if this was going to be any sort of joyride, I was completely wrong. This was probably the most challenging thing that I'd ever taken up, and that if I have to get them to learn, first I have a bigger task of getting them to behave, right? But you know what? I was committed. I was pumped up. I was sure that I'm capable of doing this because I had to prove this to myself more than anybody that, hey, I failed at mechanical engineering. At least this I can't fail at, right? So I really went about my business. I brought in so many innovative ideas into the classroom. I divided them into teams and gave them points and made them feel like, competing with each other every single day. And slowly but steadily, they started listening to me. They started learning maths. They were solving complex problems as well. And they started thinking more about science and the science around them. They were really inquisitive to know more things. But most importantly, for any English teacher, the wonderland is really when your kids start speaking English, right? And that was also happening for me. So I felt like this proud teacher for whom everything was going really right at that point in time. But you know what? There was a deeper question inside me. The question which came from the fact that if my children could not control violence during lunch breaks or intervals, if they could not work together as one unit in the classroom, if they cannot respect each other, talk to each other properly, or develop even friendships for that matter in this classroom, I was worried that they might be mathematical geniuses, but really poor human beings. And so I was looking for this magical weapon that could change the fortunes, because whatever I tried in the classroom, it failed to teach them character, right? And the answer really lied in a simple thing: the green turf. This worked magic for me in my school. Honestly, for 12 years of my school, no offense to any of my teachers, all of them were really beautiful and wonderful. But I went to school because there was football to play every day, right? I did not go to school because I was going to attend this brilliant science lesson by my teacher. I went because of the sport. And so I related with it and I decided to translate it back into my class. I get a football. I choose football largely because it's a sport that I believe in the most. Also because all you need is a ball. It's it's not very resource intensive, right? So I got them on the ground. I sent some 15 kids there. I blew the whistle first day. And this is what really happened, right? Everyone was on the ball. There were like 15 kids and all they wanted to do was be the first to the ball. Chase it like dogs. They were literally swinging like a pendulum up and down the ground, right? And all they wanted to do was hit it as far as they could. Chase it really, like be the top at everything. If you're hitting it, hit the farthest, give the most power. If you're running towards it, be the first to get to it. That was all they knew. They had no idea that we can work together as a team, pass to each other, and then we can score a goal and actually win the game. So I set about my task. Slowly but steadily, I taught them the rules of the game. And football is really a beautiful sport when it comes to learning life lessons, because you learn about critical thinking, you learn about decision making, you learn to even cope with emotion when you play these different games, and most importantly, you also learn to cope with stress, right? Because it's really a place where you can express yourself freely, hit the ball, and feel much better as an individual. And so I started building a team in my class. And I call them the Gunners also because I'm an Arsenal fan. And I slowly built around a team. And the beauty of this whole process that was happening was that not only was the team being built on the field, but also in the classroom. These very children would go back into the school and actually transpire this energy to everybody else in that school. There was really a positive vibe. These children started becoming good friends with each other, respecting each other. They would help each other if one person did not know a mathematical problem to solve. So it really helped them even in their academics back in the classroom. So I realized, boy, this is magic, right? We need to spread this to more schools. So my colleagues, who were really my roommates as well, and a couple of other Teach for India fellows, so we decided to do this with more schools, right? So we went about our business, we did some fundraising, we put some crowdfunding campaigns up. We did some crowdfunding campaigns and we got in some resources like studs, shin guards, stockings, jerseys, and everything was in place. And we initiated like a small league within Pune, about 12 schools, 12 teams, who would sort of come together every Sunday to play the game. And these Sundays were really the best times of my fellowship, right? It was just a fabulous time because the kids were chirpy, happy, and happier than they were in the school during classes. It was just an exciting period in time. Also, because they were getting access to something that they were never getting an access to before. Something that they knew schools around them are getting, children around them are getting, but they were not. That was really a great sight to behold. And so we called this project Just for Kicks, right? And really when the project started to take wings, I think a lot of entrepreneurs would tell you that, when you start off, you need to have a big vision, a mission, output areas, and what are the impact areas. You start writing down these things, make these fancy presentations, and start going about your business. But I personally feel, and I might be wrong, that truth is really something different. It all starts with the simplest of ideas. My idea was that, hey, my children cannot be together in the classroom. What do I do about it? Football, and hence Just for Kicks, right? And so it was really just a small project, no big ambition at that point in time, until one fine day something happened. An inflection point in our journey, which really changed everything for me personally. Meet Saiji. Saiji was one of my students, one of the children in my classroom. and I was coaching him football as well. So he was also part of this 15-member gang, so to say. And he was, one of my favorite children. Teachers will tell you they don't have favorites, they are lying to you. Every teacher has a favorite. And Saji was mine because he was really the easier child to deal with. Like, he would understand everything without even having to put in so much effort. So on a Sunday morning on December, when the league was happening, this was the very first year of our league. Saji was there, dressed in his attire, all ready to play the game. He had his jerseys, he had his studs, everything was in place, and this is 5:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning, right? Think about it, guys. When was the last time you woke up at 5:30 a.m. on a Sunday when you went to school? Saji did. So Saji was there. He was standing at the gate while I reached, because I reached early to mark the grounds and get the ground prepared for the match. He had a very sad and depressed look on his face, like a forlorn look. He looked lost, so to say. I was a teacher who wouldn't really push them to answer me every time, but I asked Saji, why are you so early? Because it really intrigued me. But Saji wouldn't say a word. So I let him inside. We marked the grounds together. We played, a little bit of football. We warmed up really well, and the rest of the team started pouring into the ground. But also at the same time, there was a lot of commotion outside my school gates. I could hear shouting, screaming, and a lot of things happening outside. So I ran outside, and I tried to figure out what's happening, and I learned that Saiji here had lost his father just 2 hours back. Just 2 hours back, he went through probably what was the biggest ordeal in his life. A loss that he can never come to terms with probably. But yet there he was, ready to play the match. So I walk up to Saiji because I really did not know at that time what to do. So I walk up to Saiji, I ask him, Saiji, I learned about what happened with your father, and I think you really should be back home. Saji looks up back at me with a straight face, absolutely no emotion, and tells me, Bhaiya, mujhe khelna hai. Mujhe bas khelne do. So I let him play, because that was what he wanted. He scored the winning goals in both the matches that he played that day. And post the second game, when he scored the winning goal and the whistle blew for the final, when the final whistle blew, he was taken around the ground by his friends. He was happy, he was smiling all of a sudden. He was really basking in the adulation that he was getting. He was a child who was going through the toughest phase of his life, just 8 years old, and yet there he was, happier than I've ever seen him before. That day, Just for Kicks was truly born for me. The idea that every child, irrespective of their school, irrespective of their religion, economy, language, or gender, will play an organized sport. With that sort of mission, with that really single-minded vision, we set out our task. We expanded, we fundraised, we went to corporates, we pitched everywhere we could, and slowly but steadily we built an organization which really believed in one simple idea, that everyone deserves to play. Today, as I stand before you, we're working in 3 cities, covering 100 schools, and 1,300 children play with us today. Honestly, while we're really proud of the progress that we've made over the last 4 years, in fact 4 seasons are over, I still feel we're scratching the surface of the problem here. How much is 1,300 when compared to 440 million children in the country? Barely any. But yet, we've had some amazing times, we've learned so much, we've had some really heartwarming stories, seen change that we never thought we would see in our lifetime. I wanted to meet Manoj. And the reason why I wanted to meet him, because Manoj stays right outside your college, right? Manoj is from Bibewadi. He studies in the Bibewadi Municipal School, the English medium school here, who in 2011 was a regular school-going child, but a child who was not doing well in his classes, who was not doing well in academics, who was probably not great at mathematics or science, and not every one of us are born great to do well in academics, and that's fair enough, right? And so, Manoj started playing with Just for Kicks. In 2011 was his first season, and slowly but steadily he realized one thing, that boy, I'm good at this, right? Saji was a left-footed striker, really prolific striker. He would put those curling free kicks in, like Ozil style. It was really fantastic to see him, grow in confidence with time. And he really played the sport. He became the center rock figure in that team, and his team started winning a lot of games. But what Manoj did in 2013 really is proof of the power of sport in a child's life. What Manoj did was he opened up a mini Just for Kicks in Bibewadi. Right? He went outside his school, he met all the out-of-school children there, and he began coaching them and training them football. That's not all. He even started a fundraising campaign. He got resources in. He pitched to corporates. And this is a guy, all of 14, who is running a mini Just for Kicks League program. Just imagine the ripple effect one child had in an entire community through sport. That's what Manoj's story was about for us. Now there are so many more Manojas out there, right? So many Manojas who don't have access to great field or sports because they're not going to the most prestigious of schools. But yet, I believe, and I'm sure you all agree with me, that the least we owe these children is the right to play, the access to passion, right? Somewhere where they can go, be devoid of judgments, be devoid of ego. Nobody is looking at them and telling them anything, but they're just playing. They're just having the most fun times of their lives. And that's, I think, something we can give to all the 440 million children in the country, irrespective of which communities they belong to. That's what Just for Kicks is trying to do every day. I'm hoping, and we are all hoping at Just for Kicks, and I'm sure all of you would join me in this, that when 2025 dawns, 10 years from now, 1 million children in the country, irrespective of the schools they go to, will be playing an organized sport. And most importantly, they won't be making choices between academics and sports, but both of that will be going hand in hand. Thank you so much.